Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the DaVon Lewis Show. I appreciate you guys coming out, showing your love and support. If you're a fan of wrestling, if you love wrestling, this is the place to be. Appreciate you guys coming through and showing your love. For the most part, I'm doing a SmackDown post-show review. Hopefully, you guys are tuning in, have a little bit of time on your Friday night to come on through and check it out. If you haven't seen SmackDown night, or if you're just a fan of wrestling and you like to just go ahead and just chop it up and carry a conversation. It's always love. It's always needed because we all love when it comes to professional wrestling. You can't go wrong with that whatsoever. Gearing up for the show tonight, the card was hot and ready. It was good as you possibly can get it. For the card, we ended up having Roman Reigns, LA Knight, AJ Styles, and Randy Orton doing a contract signing tonight on SmackDown as they was gearing up for the Royal Rumble for the main event, which is going to be on and popping. Can't go wrong when it comes to that main event whatsoever. I look forward to seeing how it displays, but we already know the main thing is going to happen in the long run. Roman Reigns most likely is probably going to retain and continue going and pushing forward for the most part as being the WWE Undisputed World Heavyweight Champion. We all know where it's going to go from here, but we shall see in the long run as you gear up and build up directly towards the Royal Rumble. Look like it's going to be a great display when it comes to everything that's going on for the most part. And I look forward to seeing where they go in the long run and how they do things. Randy Orton was red hot tonight. Couldn't get anything better. And of course, the Bloodline was doing their thing as well, putting themselves and putting their chess pieces into display on how they were delivering and how they were presenting themselves. For the most part, it's going to be good when it comes to how the storyline plays out. And I'm pretty sure all you guys who are valid wrestling fans are going to enjoy it and be a part of it. And we, of course, are going to just love the action, how it goes from there. Also tonight, we ended up having the KO show, Kevin Owens. He had a special guest, Logan Paul, as one of his primary persons for the show tonight. We also had the LWO, Carlito, Cruz, and also Joaquin Wilde in a triple six-man tag action against the reformed Legado Fantasma as they took on in a six-man tag match, which was phenomenal from the full start. Also, we ended up having another great match on the card. It ended up being not the Kabuki Warriors, but basically it was Katana Chance and Kayden Carter taking on Isla Dawn, and also taking on another return, which was nice to see. It was Alba Fyre. Couldn't go wrong with that. She's a phenomenal. They're both phenomenal tag team. It was kind of nice seeing them back in the fold. Kind of interesting to see how they do about that and how they was able to get a tag team titles match right off the bat, even though they lost the NXT tag team championships and they were already at the up front runners of getting that shot. And we shall see what goes on in the long run. But big news going on later on today. Earlier today, we got big news coming out of Monday Night Raw. We ended up having tragic news updated of what happened with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins ended up was having a scare. A couple of news is going around that he ended up having an MCL tear, but the news ended up being broken out and being told directly by news coming directly from Fightful Select. Fightful Select basically broke it down that wasn't the case whatsoever as to what happened. They got into more details. It was from the match with Jinder Mahal when it came to how he was saying it. We don't know actually what move caused the direct issue or when it came to that directly offhand. But he did not sustain it. He ended up suffering MCL instead, which was a torn meniscus, which was reported by Fightful Select, and it was cited that Rollins may be reporting this following Monday, which was reported by WrestleVotes, who basically displayed that Seth Rollins may be out of action and he may be putting into gear of making an announcement when it comes to whatever may be happening in the fold when it comes to WrestleMania and also the Royal Rumble coming up and what may be happening with the championship. We don't know what the full details yet. WWE has still be keeping quiet on that. I know he was out this following weekend, pulled from house shows this following weekend. We shall see what happens in the long run. But if it is something serious, best wishes to Seth Rollins, and then whatever's going on from Monday Night Raw, we shall see what goes on. But all the while, let's get into it and jump into Friday Night SmackDown. Tonight's match started off pretty chill and pretty hot. We ended up having Roman Reigns entering, coming through from the back, coming in from the parking lot stall. Basically, got into a couple of conversations with the bloodline of how he was feeling, and he was kind of upset, kind of disgruntled of the way how things were handled while he was gone. But it's nice to see that Roman's finally back on SmackDown, and he really went in on the boys. We're gonna see what happens. Jimmy Uso was looking kind of a little concerned or scared of what was going to happen in the long run, but it turned out well when it comes to see what happens later on throughout the main event. Um, Roman Reigns basically just told him straight out from the get-go, get it done, get it fixed, figures out, let's find a solution, and take care of it. And then Roman walks away. Jimmy basically displayed to his younger brother Solo, man, he's such a party pooper when it comes to how things go on, when it comes to how they have been handling things. And Solo said, don't worry about it. He's going to fix it. And he's going to take care of it. And then everything pretty alone. Moving on, Nick Aldis, the general manager for Friday Night SmackDown. He was in the ring. He was displaying his dominance, setting up, getting ready for the contract, signing for the main event for the Royal Rumble. He was getting himself together and gearing up on how he's going to handle everything. And he introduced it, of course, AJ Styles, LA Knight, and Roman Reigns to the ring so to get everything underway, so to get the signings and get it signed, sealed, and delivered so the main event could be official for the Royal Rumble this following Sunday. All the while, everything started to heat up a little bit when Roman Reigns was called to come down to the ring by Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis wasn't happy or just satisfied whatsoever how things were turning out. We ended up getting Paul Heyman come down to the ring. He basically displayed what he felt and made a couple of claim statements on how things were going. He made it straight clear based on how everything was coming on, directly from how the match was being set up. It was unfair and unjust to be able to like that. And he basically said that Roman Reigns would not be in this match. And he proceeded to walk away slowly. But Nick Aldis said, okay, if you want to play those games, he got something for those games. He said, hey, it'd be fair. If you don't want to be in this fatal four-way for Royal Rumble, we'll go ahead and set it up for a triple threat for a vacant, undisputed WWE champion. And of course, Paul Heyman came back down to the ringside with his disgruntled face, was not happy whatsoever how things were looking when it came to the authority and figure of how Nick Aldis was handling things. But Nick Aldis has been strong from the get-go of how he's been handling everything. It's been a positive effect, and he's showing a true leadership of how to handle things on SmackDown directly. They continue to go into a tangle as LA Knight and, of course, AJ Styles get into the display of how things were doing and a couple things and the complaints and direct issues of what they were feeling on the borderlines of how they have been intertwining with each other. AJ had his pet peeves on how LA Knight left him hanging when the bloodline dropped him and he was on the ground. And then, of course, LA Knight said, hey, it's the same situation when it came to when he needed his assistance. And then they end up breaking out into a brawl. And that concluded into a high pandemonium as they basically rode out the ring, headed over to the ringside. And, of course, Nick Aldis had to go be Captain Save-A-Man, or one of those things, Captain Save-A-Ho, to go out there and try to break it up and solve that solution and put it into a butt. But, of course, they still were brawling. But it left Randy Orton and Paul Heyman still in the ring. And Randy Orton ended up walking up to Paul Heyman, grabbed him by the tie, and made it direct clear. He said, off the bat, right into his face, he said, hey, tonight he's going to drop Solo. And then on top of that, he's going to beat him in the ring for a 1, 2, 3. And after that, he's going to introduce Roman Reigns to The three most deadliest words in all sports entertainment, the RKO. And we know how that goes. If Randy hits you with the RKO, you're getting dropped for the count. You stand down for the count. There's been a few superstars who have been able to get out the RKO or even counter that. But in the long run, Randy's longevity has always gone a long way. How he's presented himself and how he handled himself for the most part. Moving along, they go into commercial break, and we come back from commercial break, and then we come back to a disgruntled AJ Styles walking to Nick Aldis, who's basically backstage, and he says, "I want to." He said, "I demand a match with LA Knight." He wanted a match directly in with LA Knight. Then he proceeded to leave, and LA Knight and Nick Aldis, being a true GM he is, he said, "You got it." And then the cameras cut away, and then we get into high gear. It's the LWO, Carlito, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde. It was in a six-man tag team match against a new upgraded version of the Legado Fantasma, as was Santos Escobar, Humberto, and Angel. I don't know how I feel about them having those little short names of Angel and Humberto, but I feel like they need to have their full direct names of Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza. That's a longevity with Angel Garza. You know the Garza family. They have a long history of how they've been presenting themselves in the professional world, regardless of where they've been. You know that name when it comes to the Garza family. And I respect that for the long run, for the most part. You can't go wrong when it comes to the Garza family. Um, Getting back into it, kicking it off, the match continues to um, go into high gear. And the match was high demand, a high pandemonium, shots, including nice flips when it comes from Cruz and also Joaquin Wow. And of course, big arm drags, including trade locks, and including blind tags, in and out transitional moves. This match was pretty decent, and I enjoyed this match from my personal view. You couldn't get any better between both teams, if you want to call them Legado and LWO. I enjoyed it. The match kept me myself invested, sitting there watching it live, and then most definitely seeing how the crowd was interacting. They did their thing, and they were high, mighty, and loud, and they enjoyed themselves directly how things were turning out. And of course, when it came to how the finish of the match ended up coming, it was ended up being a whole lot of pandemonium, a lot of trade transitional moves in the long run. Then we ended up seeing Santos taking advantage as Carlito was distracted from what was going on from the outside. And Santos Escobar picked up the quick win with a quick roll up and with a 1, 2, 3, and put the boys to sleep with the count. And from there, we shall see how that goes into that transition of that storyline. It continues to build up as we to see what goes on in the long run and how it happens. We know Santos has been having a long feud with the LWO for a quick hot minute since he left them. Returned on Rey Mysterio, which Rey Mysterio has been out with an injury for a couple of months, couple of weeks by now. But we're looking like Rey Mysterio will most likely probably be returning to the Royal Rumble. And I'm hopefully looking to see if Rey Mysterio ends up entering and having some kind of cross promotion face to face with Santos, or even eliminate him so they build a feud up. Most likely that match is going to end up happening in WrestleMania, but we shall see what happens in the long run. And we look forward to seeing what happens for the most part. Moving along, we ended up going into a follow-up commercial break. They come back, and then they ended up coming with an interview with Kayla Braxton. She was having an interview with Pretty Deadly, which was Elton Prince and Kilt Wilson. Them boys, how they ever they're a little bit more flamboyant, kind of a little bit on the soft side, but they can still get the job done as being a tag team. She asked him, "You've been studying British strong style, and what is your take on that?" And Kill Wilson basically said, "We got a plan for it. We know how they basically work and run, and we ready to rock and roll, and we got this." And we cut towards our entrance, and they ended up going into another commercial break. They come back from commercial break. Then they ended up hitting to a prelude. It was the Pride, which is Bobby Lashley, Montez Ford, and Angelo Dawkins. They was doing a video package I enjoyed this package directly, how they were displaying themselves. They were putting a direct message to the final testament, and they were calling them out. They was hey, they was the man basically was calling them out, saying hey, they're looking for a challenge, they're looking for a fight. They wasn't liking how the Wings were going for the past few weeks when we had AOP making a return to SmackDown and dominated along with Karrion Cross taking out the Pride, which was something that you didn't see. Seeing Bobby Lashley at his most vulnerable spot, getting taken out and dominated the way how he was being taken out along with the Street Profits. But it's gonna be on and good. It's gonna be on like neck bones, like how Booker T usually say, and it's gonna be good when we see those boys lock up in the near future. Most likely, maybe at the Royal Rumble, or maybe somewhere in the near future. Then we go head back directly to the ringside, and then we already got Pretty Deadly in the ring as they're taking on Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. I'll say it again. Yes, Tyler Bate did make his return, and he went under his new name. He's no longer Butch, which was kind of like a little scrappy dude kind of image little thing back then, like a paper boy then. But he's back to his former new self, his known self that everybody knows him by is the Bruiserweight. Can't go wrong with this man. This man knows how to put in work, and it was kind of nice to see Tyler Bate help him out and get him back to his former self and his former persona. You couldn't ask for nothing better. I'm finally like, thank God they finally gave Pete Dunne back his original name. It was a long time coming, and it was nice seeing the way how they put them boys back together. Thanks to Tyler Bate making it happen and making it work for the most part. Moving on to the match was pretty good for the most part. It was pretty decent. I enjoyed it from start to finish. It was a lot of trade shots, a lot of hard hitting moves directly, a lot of transitional moves, blind tags, including transitional setups into arm locks, headlocks, finger stops, finger stomps. Even from Pretty Daily was getting outrun and out wrestled tonight, but it was a great match from start to finish, including with a couple of elbow shots, including hard hitting chops. And then later, as they got more into the match, with the hot tag, Pete Dunne started to take over the match with a couple of German suplexes, a couple of high spots, just suplexes around, half Nelsons, and ended up picking up the victory with the bitter end. He ended up picking a 1-2-3 over Elton Prince, who went down for the near fall and put them boys to sleep for the most part. But that feud like it's going to go on for a little bit longer. But I feel like Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate need to move on and try to work themselves into the tag team division more higher up in the rankings, and most likely for the tag team championship, which we would love to see them go at it. Because right now the tag team championship is the tag team division is looking kind of stale right now. But it's kind of a nice addition to have Pete Dunne and also Tyler Bate being added into it. You can't go wrong with them whatsoever. And I enjoyed that match 100%. Then they come back into another segment. Kevin Owens ended up coming to the ring to send the SmackDown to commercial again. Then they come back from commercial break. And then they end up having a backstage interview with Kayla Braxton. She's working hard out there. And she had an interview directly with Pretty Deadly after their post-match, directly with British Strong Style. And Pretty Deadly basically put it out there. She asked them what happened. And Wilson basically said, hey, we wasn't prepared for Pete Dunne. We was prepared for Butch. We didn't expect this high offense. We didn't expect all this. And we're going to regroup and figure themselves out. And they walked away from there. Then the cameras cut back to Kevin Owens, who's in the ring, geared, ready, rocking and rolling, as he's kind of like somewhat ready to bring out his next guest who's going to be on his show. And so he introduces Logan Paul. He comes out. Logan Paul comes out all super confident, high, mighty, ready to go with the U.S. Championship, looking like a decent heel as he comes directly to the ring. And they ended up trading themselves of carrying a decent conversation, going back and forth. And Logan Paul ended up displaying and saying, hey, Kevin Owens, you was the reason I got into wrestling. And then they showed the clip of Logan Paul at one of the WrestleManias from the previous year, where Kevin Owens ended up stunning him. And Logan Paul wasn't too fond of that moment, because he said, hey, people made fun of me. They made him tweet. It was trending. and it made him like a fool. So he had to take the next step and to get into professional wrestling. Of course, Kevin Owens kind of smirked about that and said, "Hey, I don't remember that, but I sure can make that happen again in the long run." So I ended up tying with a couple more trade verbal talking for a little bit, and then Logan Paul basically says that, "Hey, you reckon almighty and tough because you got that brace on your arm." So soon as Kevin Owens is like, okay, so he takes off the arm brace directly from his wrist, and then Logan Paul hits him with a cheap shot directly to him, took him to the ground, start parading in the ring like he did some serious work and just tirading and taunting the fans. Kevin Owens ended up getting back up, pissed off. Then he said, okay, it's on. So he ended up taking him down. They ended up start trading a couple of fist punches, rolling directly out towards the ringside, towards the commentary area, and they started brawling. And then they ended up heading towards the ringside. And Logan Paul took advantage of that, was able to grab Kevin Owens' arm that was previously in the cast and swung it against the turnbuckle LED post, and from there it shut off from there. So it looks like this is going to be a good match, but I see Logan Paul probably most likely going out successful in this match as we continue to go forward. The man I would love to see to take with the title off of Logan Paul has got to be LA Knight. So hopefully they'll be able. That's my pick, in my opinion. I think LA Knight should be the main one to face Logan Paul for that championship and go from there to get his first WWE championship in the long run. They were knock it out the ballpark on SmackDown. Moving along, they ended up going to a backstage segment. Roman Reigns, he's with the Bloodline. Roman's looking highly pissed. Paul Heyman's in the background, kind of looking like a little confused, kind of out of it, but at the same time wondering what the concerns are directly going to be. And from there, Roman Reigns basically tells Jimmy, instead of him handling business, he was too busy having too much fun, and he needs to get it done. He needs to handle it, take care of it. And Solo basically steps in front of Roman Reigns and says he will get it done, and says last week it was on him, and this week he's going to take care of it how it should have been done. So then they pan over to the show, to the next segment, back towards the camera's cut back to the ring. We have Katana Chance and Kayden Carter. They're making an entrance out, and they end up going to commercial break, which is going to be the setup for the women's tag team match. It's going to be Kayden Carter and Katana Chance versus the unholy union of Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn. It's kind of nice to see Isla Dawn and Alba Fyre back now. It's kind of odd that they just give them a straight match on their first return back as a tag team, but we shall see what happens in the long run. Hopefully we get something better going on for these ladies, and we shall see where this transition to go. Maybe they keep themselves kind of busy into the tag team division, but we never know what could happen when it comes to the World Wrestling Entertainment. Picking it up, we come back from commercial break. We have Bayley and Damage Control. They're at ringside as well for this tag team match, looking on with the Kabuki Warriors, and we shall see what goes on for this. When it comes to this future, look like they're maybe the next runner-ups for the tag team match, but we get into it. Kayden Carter and Katana Chance took advantage of this match very quickly. They were doing a lot of transitional moves back and forth, tag team transitional moves, including assisted clotheslines, lariats, handlocks, moving together, working together on a couple of high spots, which is kind of nice to see the ladies doing. They got a little bit more minutes tonight because I know the last few weeks they've been kind of dead in the water when it comes to the women's division, not giving them enough time. And I like to see the women get more notice on the women's division when it comes to SmackDown and Raw to get a little bit more time. I know they're kind of dead, but they got to find them a spot. But also like how Natalya's being the cornerstone of being the mama bear of the group, of keeping these ladies and working with them. You could tell by the moves that some of them are somewhat transition of Natalya moves that she used majority of the time. But these ladies are figuring it out, and it's kind of nice to see how they work together and figure themselves out. But for the most part, of course, towards the end of the match, it was a lot of transitional moves, back and forth with tag team high spots, and Katana Chance and Kayden Carter ended up picking the Veery with the assisted Tiara's drop splash, and Katana Chance and no Katana Chance and Kayden Carter ended up picking the victory for the 1, 2, 3 and retaining their championship as they began celebrating and continue to move forward. Then we end up having Bailey sending the Kabuki Warriors to the ring, but the Kabuki Warriors didn't just come in the ring; they came with the championships that were at ringside, and they displayed themselves as showing they look like they want to be the runner-ups to be the next challengers for the tag team championship. It should be soon. And the commentators kind of hinted, say, "Hey, when will this match happen?" And she and Bailey hinted at she would talk to Nick Aldis to make this match happen. It may happen next week on SmackDown, or it may happen at the Royal Rumble. But we shall see what happens in the long run. But with all of Damage Control having all the championships, you truly can't go wrong when it comes to that. They've been a dominant group so far since the summer, and they've been running around, shouting on everybody and gearing themselves up to now to have all the gold. But we shall see what happens. The Kabuki Warriors is a nice transitional tag team, and I think they would fit well with against Kayden Carter and Katana Chance. I think those ladies will do a great match if they give them enough time to get themselves together and have that good chemistry and make something happen for that women's tag team match in the near future. Um, Moving along, they ended up going to a backstage segment. It was the OC with AJ Styles. It was like a quick little talk. You have Luke Gallus was saying, talking to AJ Styles, said, "We got your back." And then, of course, AJ kind of looked at him kind of oddly and walked away. And then they end up going to a commercial break. Then they come back from commercial break. Then they have a vignette from the Final Testament. The Final Testament has been looking dominant. They are a brand new team on the they're a new faction here on SmackDown. They've been doing their thing. Them boys are big when it comes to AOP and carrying Cross along with having a genius mind of having his two managers by his side. Can't go wrong with that whatsoever. The vignette was very strong. I always enjoy carrying Cross's vignettes, the way how they've been carried lately. They're making him look a lot more stronger and look like he can be prepared to get in the upper cards, even for the US Championship or even for the undisputed WWE Championship. But for the most part, they display what they wanted. They said they want have the same opportunities because they make people nervous. But next week they want to have a ring face-to-face confrontation with the new develop the Pride and see who are the real Almighty are. So when those two teams come face to face, it's gonna be good. You can't go wrong with those two teams basically having meet to meet confrontation, and we shall see what goes on in the long run. Can't go wrong when it comes to how dominant the Final Testament have been handling themselves, along with the way how the Pride have been coming into their own and figuring themselves out. We shall see how they develop themselves as faces. They have been faces, even though the WWE have been trying to script them as heels, but they've been being catered to the fans as being true faces. And the Street Profits definitely are. And so when they connected him with Bobby Lashley, you couldn't go wrong with that whatsoever when you see those three working together for the long run. But for the most part, this look like it's going to be phenomenal and great when it comes to seeing those teams clash, and it's going to be some serious carnage on the end from the Final Testament. But at the same time, it's going to be kind of hard hitting with some high spots from the Pride. So we shall see what happens in the upcoming weeks and how they handle themselves for the most part. Now, moving on, Carmelo Hayes. He was in a backstage interview along with Kathy Kelly. Before he got into the thing, he was thankful for how everything was turning out, and he was enjoying his time on SmackDown. And then we had an interruption from Austin Theory and also on Grayson Waller. He made himself known. They made himself known. Austin Theory wasn't fond about the whole thing that happened last week with the box spot where they both end up landing awkwardly from trying to do one of those moves that is kind of deadly. You only could do so much when it comes to that move. But they both were trying to work that move on the top ropes for the most part. And lately, a couple stars have been getting like serious injured when it comes to doing those high spots like that. You got to be kind of careful the way how you drift yourself because it ain't fake when it comes to bumping yourself and dropping yourself in your head. That could be long term damage, or that can cause CTE, or that could put you on the shelf. So you got to be careful with the way how you conduct yourself. But in the long run, um, Austin Theory challenged Carmelo Hayes for next week on SmackDown, which is basically going to be Carmelo Hayes' hometown, and they're still teasing him to be signed to SmackDown. And so we know where it's going to go. Win, lose, or draw. Look like the fans are still going to be behind Carmelo, and those two can probably have a great chemistry and work it out together. And we shall see what happens, how they conduct themselves, and how they work it out for the most part, and go from there. And they ended up going over to commercial break. They ended up coming back from commercial break with AJ Styles in the ring, which is basically the singles match, AJ Styles versus LA Knight. The fans were sided on both competitors. This was kind of good from the get-go. You couldn't get wrong with them. They trade off with trade shots and trade off with punches starting off the top of the match. Couple of transitional moves, headlocks, clotheslines. They even did a couple of transitional moves heading out to the ringside. And then, of course, we ended up having Jimmy Uso coming down and causing a distraction as they were kind of confused what's going on. But the match ended up being rush shot and becoming nailed with a disqualification as Solo Sikoa ended up attacking both AJ Styles and LA Knight to try to take them out the equation of the Fatal 4-Way for Royal Rumble. And so Roman basically needed somebody to do his bidding, and Solo was the man to handle it and take care of business. You couldn't go wrong with the way how he handled himself, and it was always nice and good how things were going along with that. Also, as the match continued to progress, we ended up seeing Solo in the ring. He ended up grabbing the mic directly on how he was feeling. He took them out and he delivered his message straight to the point. He said, 2 down, 1 to go. And he demanded for Randy Orton to come down to the ring. And he says he won him right now. Then they faded directly to commercial break. Then they come back from commercial break. And then Solo's waiting in the ring. He's waiting for him. And then they also came to a cameo shot of Nick Aldis. He's at ringside in the commentary with the Royal Rumble contract as he's sitting there waiting at the conclusion of this match going on directly there. And the main event begins when we have Solo Sikoa versus Randy Orton. These two have a built-in chemistry from what it looks like after they've been building on the house shows. They've been doing some really good matches so far. And then tonight they transitioned and actually put it on live television. And it was really good to see how they conduct themselves to go from there. The match was good from start to finish. Randy Orton's my man. I'm looking for him to get back in the championship and eventually break that record and Ric Flair's championship ring. He's only 2 away, and it would be nice to see Randy Orton be the man on top of being the one that be to have had 17 world championships. But it looks like it's probably going to be John Cena at a later date as he slowly come along, and we shall see what happens in the long run. And of course, welcome Jerome, and also welcome Rico. Appreciate you guys coming through and showing your love and support. And also my mom Valerie, she's always love and support anything I do when it comes to content or anything I'm doing in my life. I always appreciate family when they come through and show their love and support and sharing and making their way through. You guys are always valid and you always appreciate it to come on through. Like, comment, share what goes a long way. Get the algorithm up to get me noticed and get me out there. Even if I am a small channel, it's all good. I'm all posted here directly on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, known as X. But I appreciate you guys for doing the most that you can to support and show your love. You guys are always awesome, and I always appreciate you guys for showing your love. We're going back into the match. The match ended up continuing to go hand to hand when it comes to how they were conducting themselves, trading blows back and forth. Um, then the match continued to go off as Randy Orton was able to connect with an RKO and did what he said he was going to deliver. He ended up beating Solo Sikoa for the 1, 2, 3. Then the brawl continued to slew as Jimmy Uso, LA Knight, and AJ Styles ended up coming back to the ring as they rolled into the ringside. And then they ended up having a little post-match little stare down. And then of course AJ Styles and LA Knight ended up having a direct issues with each other, and they started fighting with each other. The two-fourths of the main event continue to brawl and go back and forth with each other. And then they end up concluding and end up having Randy Orton getting involved as well when it came to how things were going on, and they end up all brawling with each other. But then, of course, Randy Orton had a couple of tricks up in his back. He ended up hitting the RKO directly, not only on AJ Styles, but LA Knight. And then from there, he was looking around the ring trying to figure out what's going on. Then Roman Reigns slipped up from directly into the ring and ended up taking down Randy Orton with a Superman punch and was tirade with the fans, doing his normal taunting. And then he looked over at Nick Aldis and he basically displayed himself. He expressed it what he felt. From there, Nick Aldis decided to give him the contract for the main event, and Roman Reigns ended up signing it. Nick Aldis was about to put his hand out directly to receive it again, but Roman Reigns ended up basically dropping it to the side of the ringside in a disrespectful manner, and the fans ended up booing. And then Roman Reigns ended up going to the corner, positioning himself to set up for his trademark signature, the spear. And Randy Orton was working his way to his feet, but then Randy Orton ended up doing his best as he can and working his way to his feet. And as soon as he turned around, Roman was coming at him, and he hit him with the RKO to put that man to sleep. And then, of course, that sent the fans happy as they were satisfied the way how things were turning out with the way how Randy Orton was on top while all the other competitors were all laying out. Is this a future thing of seeing Randy Orton soon to be the future WWE Undisputed Universal Champion? We shall see in the long run, but from my own personal opinion, looks like Roman Reigns is still going to be on top. I know a couple of people on Twitter have been kind of tiring that they want him to break Hulk Hogan's record because, you know, Hulk Hogan has been known for his remarks and his comments on how he's felt on certain things, and he's a known racist. But some people out there have been basically saying just because he was their childhood dream or a person that they know, that it's okay to basically just let it slide and keep the Hulk Hogan trademark of the scripted things that they have for him for his achievements. But Terry Bollea, that's just a separate person, and what he done in his personal life, that's his business. But a lot of people have different opinions. It's now in that cancel culture and that Me Too moment, and they basically want Roman Reigns to proceed. He's going on almost close to 3.5 years as being a WWE Undisputed Champion. It looks like that's the position that they're putting forward for Roman Reigns to be the man. He's been the man, but still got a long way to go. Still too many goats when it comes to how they handle themselves and go from there. And for the most part, the show was good from start to finish. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the matches. I enjoyed seeing a new twist when it comes to the Legado Fantasma. I enjoyed the whole thing when it came to how they displayed the Fatal 4 towards the main event. And I appreciate you guys coming out, showing your love, support. Get a thumbs up. If you have somebody or a hood nerd like myself who enjoy pro wrestling, gaming, or even just movies just in general, send them away to our channel. I'm a small channel where so it goes a long way to show your support and love by even your own love. It don't take much to share it. It don't take much to like, because I would do the same thing for you if you got content out there. For the most part, appreciate you guys. Continue to have a great 2024. Be prosperous. Stay blessed. And I'll see you guys on the next one. And I appreciated Jerome. I appreciated Rico. And a few of you guys have been coming in and out. Appreciate you guys as well. It's always nice to have you guys interacting and drop a comment. I don't want to see people just dropping in just to show a view. If it's something that's not for you, you will already see the timeline. just keep it skipping. You ain't got to look at it. But for the most part, I'll always support your content regardless who you are. If you're real family and friends or people that's out there, I got your back and I always show love to you. For the most part, you guys, God bless. Be prosperous. It's 2024. Make your money because it's the golden year where everybody has the opportunity to make great strides for themselves. And I appreciate you guys. And you guys have a great night. Peace.